Joining me now to discuss this is Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff Mark, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I am actually surprised a little bit, and maybe you can clear the air on this, that these officers were charged and that they have been arrested. When you consider the narrative around the Breonna Taylor shooting, had the narrative been true, then yeah, you know, they would be rightfully charged. But the narrative was false. They made all sorts of false claims. They claimed Breonna Taylor was shot in her sleep during a no-knock raid. They claimed initially that they went to the wrong house, that it was the wrong house. But we know all of those things were not true. And we know Breonna Taylor's car was spotted at a drug house multiple times. She was recorded talking about the drug house. A dead body was found in a car rented by Breonna Taylor. And the only reason she ended up losing her life was because her boyfriend started shooting at police. So what happened?
You know, this is tragic. Anytime you lose life, Addison, and thanks for having me on. But to come back and charge these 4 officers, look, it's hard enough to hire police officers as it is. And now you want to go back and charge these guys for doing their job. You know, what about Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland?
Right.
Why don't you go charge him? Because he's doing things that are extremely much more important to this country. Access to governments have had access to him and his dad. And yet nothing is being done about that. But let's go after the 4 police officers who were trying to do their job and protect their community. And like you said, Addison, the boyfriend was one who started shooting, and he should be the one that's being held responsible. Unfortunately, the police officers are. And this is just yet another example of how this government, and especially Merrick Garland and his office, have turned on the American people and law enforcement.
Well, and they tried to say that one of the arguments was that, oh, there was no probable cause for the police to go to this apartment. When we just went down the list, she had been talking about how this was a drug house. Her ex-boyfriend had been involved in all sorts of nefarious drug activities, drug trafficking, and so police had more than probable cause. I mean, a dead body was found inside Breonna Taylor's car in 2016, or the rental car rather. They had more than probable cause by all available evidence to go poke into what was going on in that apartment.
Yeah, my understanding, I don't know all the details of the case, but my understanding is there was ample information and probable cause to be going there and showing up with a warrant. And where's the judge on this? Are they going to indict him too? Because clearly the judge signed off on the warrant. I'm guessing that they're going to allude to the fact that the judge was deceived with false information. But I'll be honest with you, this just stinks. It just shows that the police are the enemy in this country to this administration. They continue to go after the police long after cases have been resolved on a local level, and county attorneys have reviewed it, state attorneys have reviewed it, only to have the federal government pick it up and now charge these police officers, only because they want to appease this woke and loud voices that exist in this country, small but loud. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that really is, I think, the reason these officers are having the book thrown at them. Essentially, same thing with why Derek Chauvin got such a brutal sentencing during the George Floyd controversy. I don't, in my opinion, there was no evidence to charge him as harshly as they did. But BLM made it clear that if you did not charge him with everything in the world and more, they were going to make that juror's life absolute hell. And so that might be the reason for this. We can only speculate, of course. But Sheriff, I want to get to this because I think you would have a lot of good things to say about this. A police group might revoke Paul Pelosi's membership after reports that he flashed his membership card during the DUI arrest. So Paul Pelosi got in a pretty severe car accident because he was drunk driving, and police showed up to the scene, and he tried to show them his special privilege, his membership card, to try to get off the hook scot-free. I don't think that's the best time to be flashing your membership card.
No, not at all, and they should revoke it. And you know what? He should be held accountable. I'm going to get personal here. My son had a bout with drugs. My son actually hit a guy in a car and on a bike and hurt him, got charged with ag assault with a deadly weapon, a felony, which is what Paul Pelosi should have been charged with. And my son is currently serving a 6-month sentence in my jail for that. And now to watch that just because Paul Pelosi's wife is the head of the Congress and obviously somebody who has questionable morals at best, now he's going to get a pass. Where people like me and other families across this country are held to a higher standard. But it's one of those things where this class society that we're in now, if you are part of that class and you subscribe to the politics of this administration, then you're not going to be held accountable per the law. That's just for the rest of us schlubs out here in America who try to abide by the law every day, and we are held accountable. I'm not immune from that. So there's a personal example. I want him to be held accountable just like my son had to be held accountable.
And that seems to be something, Sheriff, that is so lost on society today, taking accountability for your actions. We see it with this push for radical abortion laws because people, both men and women, don't want to take responsibility for the product of intercourse, if you will. And so we see that throughout society. We see it with student loan debt cancellation. You know, why should I have to be held responsible for signing the bottom line? Well, because you signed the dotted line. That's why. And we see it with this here with Paul Pelosi. You know, he's in his 60s, 70s, I believe. He's in his 70s, and he's trying to get out of a DUI by flashing a membership card to police. Not a good look for Paul Pelosi. One more thing, Sheriff, before we go. There was obviously this shooting at the Mall of America yesterday. Shots were fired inside a Nike store. I think there was some argument that broke out. This led to someone pulling out a gun. The suspect is still at large. They have not found who he is. And that's just, it's shocking to me when I think about how many hundreds, thousands of people are in that mall at once. And this man was inside a specific store and he managed to escape the entire mall, go by thousands of people without one person, holding him up. And so how is it that a shooter can be inside such a massive, crowded area, fire shots, and just leave?
Well, that's a great question, Addison, because they had no problem tracking anybody down that was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. You know, I would like to know what political affiliation this shooter might have had to where they don't go after him, or maybe what his skin color was, or whatever it is. We've gotten to this awful place in this country where we're allowing politics or your sexual preference or your skin, the color of your skin to influence decisions as to how we enforce the rule of law. And that's not how it should be. Everybody should have the rule of law applied to them equally, no matter who they are, what cultural background they are, what political background they are. And I hope that they find this guy and hold him accountable, and they don't deem that just because of his upbringing that he was, he shouldn't be charged, which is what we're seeing in a lot of these crazy run places across this country where they've lost touch with the rule of law. So let's hope they find him, hold him accountable. He should be. And I think they have every ability to do it. So I hope they do it.
Yeah, last I read from the police, they're still obviously on a pretty big manhunt, and they are vowing to throw him in the slammer where he belongs. Sheriff Mark Lamb, great to have you back on the program as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Addison. Hey, just one more point. I don't want to diminish what the police are doing. I question. That's not what I'm questioning. These guys do a good job, and I hope they find him, and I trust that they will. And I just hope that the justice system holds that guy accountable.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that, Sheriff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Addison. God bless.